have to talk about one thing though.
Please.
Before we go like the family in the LA, like in Minneapolis, your dad worked with a guy who some of us may have heard of. He's a music. I think he did okay. His name is Prince.
Yeah.
Do you have Paisley Park memories? Do you have any Prince stories that you can share with us?
Yeah, well,
even later in life.
I still totally sit in gratitude for just how surreal that experience is, because I think I didn't understand what I was experiencing till later. So, you know, we had been to Paisley Park, but more than that, I think my memories when I was younger is that he very much made tour a family affair. So, you know, I was in London with both of my parents when he did his London shows. There's pictures of his Hawaii book, and you not only see me and my brother there, but like the kids of a lot of people that worked with him were also there. And so I definitely remember those moments. I remember when, you know, in LA, because they continued to work with each other even once we had moved. And I think my favorite moment was, I think either my father was dropping equipment off or film off or something, and me and Saeed were just kind of tagging along with him when we were at his house. And, you know, from way up, like on the 3rd floor, all we heard was this deep voice that was like, "Saeed, I like your hat." and there's Prince. But I mean, honestly, I have nothing but such incredible memories, because he remained continuously supportive, not only of the family, but of my career too. When Imagine That came out, he had copies of it for people.
You and Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, and when Blackish came out, I remember him reaching out just to congratulate me. But, you know, I think in no uncertain terms, you know, my family credits just our ability to move how we moved to that, you know, that relationship, and what he was able to blossom for my family. And also the idea of being able to exist in such a family-oriented place. It's not something that you experience often. So for, you know, my father's, you know, long creative relationship to be one that also fostered this environment where he could bring his family and where we could remain a unit. Yeah, I think it really set precedent to say, oh, this is how it can be.
You can actually do that. Yeah, it's really cool. There's one other guy that you're affiliated with who has a little bit of a musical acumen. He actually is family. He goes, another icon, I think, Nas, right? His name is Nas, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Cousin Nas? Like
yes, Cousin Nas. It's my mother's first cousin, because his father, Uncle Olu, is... I never understand first cousin, second cousin. I don't get it. All I know is that we're related.
We cousins.
Yeah, we're cousins. And again, I remember I was just always such a fan of the music, and I think it's what's made me such a music nerd, is growing up around these kind of musical influences and being introduced to this music at such a young age. And I think those were always my favorite moments I feel like I remember every tour that we've gone to of his. I remember, like, Distant Relatives is still one of my favorite tour experiences, period. Of him and Damian Marley on stage. And I couldn't have been older than 10, but I remember that like yesterday. But again, I feel like what's cool, people know this that know him, but I think he's just so invested in the arts generally. Tech too. Tech is a whole impressive other side. But I think growing up just with his appreciation of people like James Baldwin, of different musicians, I think there was always like such a masterclass being around him because of how rooted he is in kind of our cultural heritage and history. And so, yeah, again, one of those things that when I look back on it, I mean, I'm still very much living in it. It's still very surreal to be like, oh, how normal were these experiences of being able to see my cousin perform?
Yeah, but it is normal too. That is your experience. I did a movie. We produced a movie for Netflix called Monster that starred Calvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah.
And Nas acted in that movie.
I'm very familiar.
And I remember, I mean, I don't know him at all really, but I remember thinking how thoughtful he was that day, those few days on set, and how much he was committed to just being there and not being a star, but being a teammate. And I met him another time. He's partners with a guy named John Seymour.
Yes.
In a place called Sweet Chick.
Oh, the way I call, they have this one chicken dumpling soup thing that they took off the menu, and I call biannually to be like, John,
can I
get the recipe?
Please.
Yeah, please.
I just ate there a few weeks ago at the one next to the Ludlow hotel. Anyway, enough about food in New York. Let's get back to Yara. So LA, the family's doing their thing. You have this really incredible, unique experience because you're coming from a family of artists. So your parents understand the grind. They're on the grind.
Yeah.
And you're having all these wonderful experiences. You referenced, you did a movie with Eddie Murphy at some point, Angelina Jolie. So obviously things are like, you're starting to book some stuff. You played Little Carrie, Little Pope, right?
Yes, Little Olivia. One of my friends just messaged me like, no way. Because it's I think when it came out, it was a very big deal. But I love all this new generation that are finally watching Scandal from the beginning and the pleasant surprise it is. Yeah. To see me in that one scene with my Walkman and my headphones on. So,
it's working. You're still in school doing other things, but you're building a career. And then, this dude, KB, Kenya, he created this really iconic show and you get casted. We all know it's called Blackish. And clearly that's your defining role. And that's when things pivoted. Tell me about getting the role, the feeling that you got. Did you know then? Did you feel like this was a rocket ship?
Well, I'm trying to think. I remember the audition process so clearly because at the time, it was just some of the most fun I'd ever had auditioning for anything. And I think it's a very rare feeling to put in work and say, it doesn't even matter if I got it. I had such a great time start to finish. Yeah. And I remember the first audition I'd gone in for may have been, I forget if it was a director session, but Anthony showed up. And I don't think anyone was expecting him. And that was the first time we had met. And he was just saying hi to everybody, asking questions. And I'd gone into audition and I had a good time. And then I remember being called back to a screen test, which is, you go in and it's just much more of an official operation. You're in a proper room with all sorts of cameras and producers. Yep. And
you've done your deal.
Yeah, done the deal, which I don't even know if I knew what that really meant at the time, but it was still called the Untitled Kenya Barris Anthony Anderson Project. Didn't have the title. I remember Kenya came out to hand me my mic because we were getting mic'd up for this, and he had said, "Oh, by the way, you went to school with my daughter." Because one unknown fact is just I went to Immaculate Heart all-girls Catholic school, and I went with Kaylee Barris, and we never put two and two together prior to the audition, which is like, oh, that's that Barris. And my character.
Were you guys actually friendly?
And I mean, I don't think we hung out outside of school, but we were school friends for sure. And she's always been so nice. But I had no clue at the time that the character I was reading for was loosely based on somebody that I knew. Now, given Zoe's taken on a life of her own, but in those beginning episodes, it was very much pulled from my classmate. So I remember going in and reading with Anthony, and he had looked at me and said, okay, I'm telling the story kind of backwards. Two things. First thing I noticed is we're both wearing the same shoes. We're both wearing Cole Haan Oxfords because Cole Haan Oxfords at the time were my everyday wear. Did not matter what I was doing. Yeah. But at 13, you could not see me without those. And so it just so happens that Anthony and I have the exact same shoes on. And it felt
you have old man shoe taste, is what you're saying.
Yes. But it was just like a great omen. And then we audition together, have a great time. We're just playing around. I remember him improving, me adjusting, and luckily I had just been on, the last movie I'd done was called Butter, which was a comedy that was very much about improv, and I was grateful to spend time with like Rob Corddry and Ty Burrell and all sorts of great people. So I really love the comedy space. So we had a great time auditioning, and as I was walking out, he was like, "Hey, just so you know, this is yours. If you don't get this was never my show to begin with."
Wow. That's incredible, though. That's a great moment.
It was so surreal. I mean, I was 13 and obviously had wanted to get this job, but I don't think I'd ever heard in terms as close to as certain as that it's like, oh no, they're rooting for me in here. So many times you hear a lot of niceties and they don't mean anything. Like they'll be bullshit. Like, they'll say, see you on set. They don't mean it. I mean, to this day, people will be like, I'm booking your ticket. And be like, okay, we went another direction. So
sorry, we pivoted.
Yeah, but I feel like that very much set the tone for the amount of love and warmth I was walking into on that. I feel like, Anthony was extremely protective. You have a lot of people that just have a warm disposition that
Yeah.
cared about us not
Tracy.
only, that cared about us not only as like their acting colleagues, but as young people. And I think they were very mindful, Tracy, Anthony, Kenya, to create an environment for young people, to be able to have fun, to be able to feel empowered. I think we did a lot of playing around and improving that would kind of be unexpected on any set, but we were very empowered to come to set prepared. I'd have to say Blackish was the best training ground on just how to be on a set. And being
Gotcha.
surrounded by so many professionals, it's very much changed my trajectory of just how I show up in work, because Kenya said in no uncertain terms, like, you come to rehearsal having already known your stuff. Like, it's not the time that you open the script for the first time. And you come with a perspective. You come to table read with a perspective on how you're going to say this. And I feel like that's a kind of training that is really irreplaceable, because
Yeah.
no one ever gives you that clear of a breakdown. I've been on other sets where I've seen people complain about how somebody shows up to set, but I'm realizing no one's ever given them a rundown of how to be on a set. And the audition process versus the set process is so different
Totally
that you're
different.
kind of
Yeah.
stumbling along. So the fact that we had people that were very much invested in just giving us tools on how to be an actor was just like such a great education.